Does your child want to buy their first home? Or maybe you want your child to live in your area, and maybe your area is so expensive, like the Bay Area in California, that it's really hard for anybody to buy a home without some help. There are ways that you can help them. In this video, I want to share some of those different ways that you can help your child acquire a home without taking on unnecessary fees, taxes, or other factors that can affect your estate. So let's get started. Okay, so the first option is to make an outright gift of some cash to your child, and then they buy the house themselves. So what are some pros of this? Well, it's simple, right? You're making a gift to your child, and the nice thing is when your child buys it, it's in their estate, and then if it grows in value, then that growth in value is growing in their estate, not in yours. All right, so if you already have a taxable estate, then your estate is not getting larger and larger, it's happening in your child's estate. But there are some drawbacks to that. One of them is asset protection. There's no asset protection at all if you just give money to your kid and they buy a house. I mean, they may buy a house where you don't want them to buy a house. They might have some sort of creditor's claim against the house and they lose it. Or maybe they get married and then divorced and they lose half of the house. Another problem is when you make a gift to a child, then that counts as a gift for gift tax purposes. So, the first $18,000 is usually forgiven, or if they're married, you can double that amount. But then anything over that, you have to report on a Form 709, a gift tax return. You have to report that to the IRS. And that eats away dollar for dollar at your unified gift tax and estate tax exemption. So if you have a taxable estate, then you're decreasing your exemption dollar for dollar, and that can really be a problem. I have a video on gift taxes that I encourage you to watch where I delve a little bit more into that. Okay, so maybe you think, well, maybe I don't want to give the money directly to the child. Maybe I'll make a loan to the child, and then I'll forgive that child's loan in little portions over the years. So what's the benefit of this? Well, just like the first option, the house is now held in your child's estate and it's growing in the child's estate, so it's not making your estate larger. And also, you're not making a gift, so you don't have to report that to the IRS. However, you have to write that promissory note correctly, and it can get a little bit tricky. The child does need to pay you interest. You can't just say, hey, there's no interest, because that would count as a gift, honestly. And also, you need to keep track of the payments that the child makes, and that can really be a hassle. And of course, there's no asset protection involved in that option either. Now, another option, the third option, is to purchase a house with your child. So you guys co-own the house, all right? And this could be very helpful if your child has some money and you have some money and you guys want to go in on it together. So one nice thing about this is your child really is buying into this. They have a stake in this. So, they might treat the house better. They might really appreciate your contribution because they have to contribute too. And also, you're not making a gift to the child, so it doesn't affect your estate taxes. You own part of this house. Now, you need to say, where does your portion go when you're gone? And the child needs to say, where does their portion go? And usually I suggest that each ownership interest is held in a trust. I see some parents who co-own houses in joint tenancy. So they say, if one of us dies, then it goes to the other one. There's a few problems with that. One of them is a capital gains issue because only your half gets a step up in cost basis when you die. But I think the bigger problem with this is we don't know who's going to die first. What if you and your child die at the same time? Then that house is going through probate. Or maybe you don't want your whole, your half interest going to your child. You want part of it to go to somebody else. Well, all of that can be specified in your revocable trust. Or you can say in your trust, upon my death, I want my half of this house to go to my child. So now they own the full 100% of the house. But there's some big drawbacks with co-ownership because that can really be tricky. What if one owner wants to do something with the house and the other owner disagrees? Or what if you can't agree on what roof to put on the house, or one of you wants to sell the house and the other doesn't? So because of this, I usually encourage co-owners to go to a real estate attorney to draft a co-ownership agreement where you go over all of the different scenarios that could happen and you describe what do we agree on will happen if any of those scenarios come up in the future. Also, you want to think about who's paying for the property taxes and the upkeep, because you could have a child who pays 100% of the property taxes, but does that mean that they're acquiring part of your interest in the house? Sometimes they're not, right? So there can be some tricky nuances about ownership percentages when you have one person paying for most of the expenses of a house. Also, you are in this situation with co-ownership, each co-owner is responsible for the other owner's actions. So if you have a child that you co-own a property with and that child is not very responsible, and let's say something bad happens on the house grounds, then that could be grounds for a lawsuit against you. So we really worry about that. So oftentimes I think co-ownership may not be the best approach.
Hey everyone, if you like my mom's video, like and subscribe.
Okay, so another option is you can purchase the house yourself and then you make a gift of the house into a Dynasty trust for your child. Now, why might you want to do that? Well, a Dynasty trust is very protective on behalf of your child. If your child gets married and then divorced, all the money stays with your child. If they have a creditor's claim or a lawsuit against them, everything in the Dynasty trust is protected, and it also can go to their children free of estate taxes. So asset protection is really provided with this Dynasty trust. Now, do consider though that making a gift during your lifetime, even to a Dynasty trust, does count for the gift taxes. So you do have to fill out Form 709 and submit it to the IRS. So that is something to think about. And usually that $18,000 exemption, it may not apply for a gift to a Dynasty trust. So you really have to look into that. Now, another thing just has to do with timing. You can purchase a house right now and then leave it to your child either outright or in a Dynasty trust when you die. You can put that in the trust terms. And in that situation, you might have your child paying you rent, or you might not. You get to decide the terms of when you own property if you want to rent it out or not. So this is a really straightforward option because you're not making a gift to your child, but you kind of are because you're making this house available for them to live in without perhaps having to pay rent. So that could be really nice. If somebody told me, hey Ellen, I'm gonna buy a house for you, but you don't own it until I die, but you can live in it until I die and then you own it, I'd say, thank you. I wouldn't be like, well, how come I don't get to own it now? You know, your child might respond that way, but I think it can be more protective for you and your child if you own it while you're alive and then you leave it to your child. And then you don't have to report it as a gift on a 709 form. It is part of your estate. So if you own property and it goes up and up and up in value, then that might increase your taxable estate. The other thing, the other drawback is if you own a property that your child's living in and then you die and your child continues to live there and they receive it, then Prop 19 applies, which says that since it's not the parent's residence transferring to the child's residence, there's no exemption from reassessment, and the entire property gets reassessed at the parent's death. So that can be problematic for California property tax purposes. So you notice, I just gave you 5 options of ways to help your child buy a house. And I didn't say, do this one or this one's the best, because it really depends on your situation. I encourage you to go in and talk with an estate planning attorney or a real estate attorney and weigh the pros and cons depending on your particular situation to see what makes the most sense. How do you really want to approach this? You can also bring your adult children in and they can talk through their situation and you work out something that works the best for your family. So happy house hunting.
Hello everyone. If you liked my mom's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time.